Big win, big win. 32-14 is your final. Welcome in, Chatterbox Bengals. I'm Craig Sandlin, joined now for our post-game show by Stone Shields. And Stone, this was, it's not even a coming out party. It's not a return party. It's just Joe Burrow reminding us, I guess, of who Joe Burrow is, and comes out and puts on a show for us, I guess, there in Baltimore. And we'll start with that. That's obviously going to be the story, regardless of the performance of everybody else. Joe Burrow, what'd you like from him tonight? Obviously not perfect, but did enough to get the victory.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was absolutely unbelievable. That was one of the most fun games that I think we've had the opportunity to watch, certainly in quite some time. As you mentioned, I mean, he wasn't perfect. There were some throws there early, particularly there. I think it was the first quarter, maybe the second quarter. It was a go ball to Jamar down the sideline, one-on-one opportunity, something that they never miss. And he just missed a little bit, right? But you just see the totally different element to this offense when Joe Burrow's out there because he has that ability to escape and extend plays. And Joe Flacco's been unbelievable for this team. We certainly appreciate everything he's done. But there's a point there where it's like, okay, guys aren't open. It's time to throw it away or take the check down, and perhaps maybe it's a sack for Joe Flacco. But Joe Burrow has that ability to escape, get outside the pocket. We saw that several times, right? How about those two huge 3rd and 9 plays where they scored the 2 touchdowns on? Tanner Hudson, unbelievable. The best catch of his career by a long shot there that he was able to come up with that. And even, when Joe Burrow's rolling out and he throws it downfield and he just gets a defensive pass interference, right? Like you don't have that kind of element with a Jake Browning or a Joe Flacco. So it was awesome to see him back out on the football field for this team. I've been, emphasizing the point that, hey, I want him to play. It's the right thing for him to play. I know some people had some different opinions, but Joe Burrow reminded everybody who he is. It's very funny in this league to me because it's, people always say it's a what have you done for me lately? It's very week to week league, but just hearing some of the dialogue around the National Football League, it's like people just kind of thought Joe Burrow was just this average quarterback. Like this is one of the best players in the NFL, and I think he proved that tonight. To your point, missed some throws. That's going to happen, right? But he dropped back and threw it 46 times and, 261 yards, had the 2 touchdowns, and just orchestrated the offense beautifully. And it was awesome to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do a quick game recap, remind people how we ended up at 32-14. It was a defensive showing in this one, to say the least. Bengals and Ravens, they started off, Bengals got the ball. They went on a 10-play, 51-yard drive, ended with a field goal. And Baltimore came back and answered with a long drive of their own, 7 plays, 69 yards, ends with a 28-yard touchdown run by Derrick Henry. After the Bengals punt, the Baltimore Ravens took over, but Lamar Jackson fumbled on a Joseph Ossai sack and gave the ball back to the Bengals at the 3-yard line. Bengals, unfortunately, unable to do anything. They go for it on 4th down. Pass comes up incomplete between Mike Gesicki's hands, and they turn the ball over on downs. Bengals able to force a 3 and out on a punt, and that was the end of the first quarter. Bengals would get a field goal to start the second quarter and bring it within 1 at 7-6, and then yet another fumble on the next drive for the Baltimore Ravens. This one was from Isaiah Likely. He had taken the ball 44 yards and was about to go into the end zone before fumbling as it was knocked out of his hands by Jordan Battle. Bengals would drive 74 yards and get a field goal to take a 9-7 lead. Bengals forced a punt before the Bengals then turned around and punted themselves. And then on the first play of the next drive, the Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson is sacked and fumbled yet again, giving the ball back to the Cincinnati Bengals deep in the Baltimore territory. Unable to punch it in yet again, but this time they settled for a field goal and a 12-7 lead going into the half. Baltimore punts to start the second half, and then Bengals go on a 10-play, 61-yard drive, and assisted by a 17-yard defensive penalty. Ultimately, they get a 14-yard touchdown pass to Tanner Hudson, as you mentioned, and they go up at that point 19-7. The Ravens would turn around and put together a touchdown drive of their own to make it 19-14, capped off by an 18-yard touchdown run by Keaton Mitchell. He went untouched into the end zone, but the Bengals were not to be outdone. 8 plays and 68 yards later, Joe Burrow found Andre Yoshivas for a 29-yard touchdown. Bengals took a 26-14 lead at that point. Bengals then picked off Lamar Jackson to start the fourth quarter. They take advantage and get a field goal to make it 29-14. They turned the Ravens over on downs before Samaje Perine fumbled the ball away back to the Ravens. But luckily, Zay Flowers would then fumble on the next drive, and the Bengals would take over, getting a field goal after 6 plays and 32-14 lead, and that's where it would end. Joe Burrow, 24 of 46, 261 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Chase Brown broke 100 yards, all-purpose yards yet again. 6th straight game for him. That's a franchise record. Jamar Chase had 7 catches for 110 yards. Joseph Osai had 4 tackles and 2 sacks. Between him and Miles Murphy, they had quite a day for the young defensive lineman. And Evan McPherson, 6 of 6 for field goals. If you had Evan McPherson in your fantasy league, congratulations. All right, Stone, I'm going to be honest with you here. I'm a little frustrated with the lack of a run game for a majority of this game. Obviously, towards the end of the game, started to run it a little bit more. But there's 2 things that I want to talk about a little bit, and that is just, they didn't run the ball a whole lot despite how successful Chase Brown was early. And then Samaje Perine splitting carries with Chase Brown was a little confusing to me as well. I know that obviously Samaje coming back from an injury and they trust him a lot, but he's not that guy. Not that guy.
Yeah, I definitely think early in the game you're kind of sitting there like, okay, let's get Burrow into this thing a little bit slowly. Let's run the ball, right? The run game has been something that's been positive for you the past couple of weeks, despite the fact obviously you haven't been winning football games. So I totally hear you there with the run game. Just I think what's frustrating about it is because like when they did it, it was working. So like, why not stick to it? And you remember, the goal line play when you get the fumble early and it's like, boom, you got 4 plays from the 2-yard line. And I think in a lot of situations, you like to probably run it there on first down. And obviously, Cincinnati did not. I believe they only ran it once out of those 4 plays. So that can certainly be a little bit frustrating there. As far as the split carries go with Samaje Perine, clearly this team has a lot of trust in Samaje Perine. And we talked about it earlier in the year where it's like, well, he's a different style back. He's a bigger guy and maybe can handle that initial contact at the line of scrimmage and have an ability to maybe turn a run that's, stopped at the line and maybe turn it into like a 3-yard gain. Maybe Chase Brown doesn't really have that ability. So I totally hear you. Chase Brown was great. And, towards certainly when Zach Moss went out last year, it kind of turned into Chase Brown's team from a running perspective. The run game was basically just him, but I still think they're confident in what Samaje Perine can do. I was kind of surprised that he kind of looks the way he still does, right? Because he was in Denver for a little bit, of course, and then in Kansas City, and then he comes back here to Cincinnati, and I don't see much of a different player than what we saw when he was helping this team go to the Super Bowl. So I understand the frustration with maybe wanting to get Chase Brown some more touches, and I definitely get the frustration of, hey, when you run the ball, it's working, and you're not doing it early in the game. But obviously, when you sit back and look at the score, it ended up not being a difference as Cincinnati was able to win pretty handily.
Yeah. Samaje Perine on the night, 14 carries, 39 yards, good for 2.8 per pop. Chase Brown, 15 carries, 78 yards, 5.2 per pop. I mean, Chase Brown didn't, bust any super long ones along at 18, but like you said, I mean, when he was running the ball, he was getting the job done. And
Yeah.
it's interesting, and we talked about it throughout the show today, is the difference between a Joe Burrow offense and a Joe Flacco offense. And that is one thing that I think that Zach Taylor and this coaching staff are going to have to figure out is they had so much success with Joe Flacco under center, running the ball, turning that into play action. Didn't necessarily see that so much tonight. I mean, they ran a little bit of play action, but I don't think there was really much, if any, biting from the Baltimore Ravens because I don't think it was really sold very well by Joe Burrow. So I don't know how much that's going to evolve over the next couple of weeks as Joe Burrow comes back and gets more comfortable. He was under center a little bit more tonight, I felt like, than normal. I'm not sure
Yep.
if you felt that way as well, but still felt like maybe the run game would help him a little bit more, especially in that play action game where maybe it would help him get some spacing in the secondary. But nonetheless, a good showing from this Bengals. And obviously, the score looks – I'm going to say this, Stone. I think the
Yeah.
score looks better than maybe the game really played out, if I'm being honest. Like, you get
Okay.
5 turnovers against a team, and you win 32-14. Like 32-14 is a great win. It's a division win. You're not going to be mad about it. But when you turn the ball over 5 times, including getting the ball deep in the Baltimore territory, at least twice that I could think of, and you come away with 3 points in those two situations, this felt like a game that very easily could have been 46-14. So, if not more. Um, any concern on your end about that? I mean, the defense steps up, does their job, and offensively, yeah, you put up 32, but maybe it could have been a lot more.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying there. I'm sitting there at halftime and you're looking up at the scoreboard and you're like, wow, you have all these turnovers that you forced, and it seems like you kind of have some good fortune going for you there as well. Like anytime you get one of those situations where it's a surefire touchdown that, oh, all of a sudden it's a touchback, like you really got to capitalize there because that's such a significant swing in momentum. So I definitely was worried about that. And I was texting some buddies at halftime, like, yeah, there's a good chance that missing out on those opportunities is going to come back to bite you here in the second half. But ultimately, it didn't. And it's a lot easier to deal with these kinds of issues when you do it with a win, right? And there's obviously a lot of positive momentum that comes with winning the football game. And there's, a lot of elements that go into that. Let's be very clear here. Lamar Jackson, he didn't look close to 100% to me. I don't know if this is the toe, the hamstring, but he had a couple where he used his legs, but it didn't look like vintage Lamar Jackson as far as the speed and elusiveness that we're used to seeing when he plays the Cincinnati Bengals. So that certainly helped you there as well. And he also missed a lot from the pocket. We talked about Joe Burrow missing a few, particularly in the first half. I mean, he clearly outplayed Lamar Jackson in this game. Lamar really missed a bunch of throws from start to finish in this game. But I think, the reason why I'm not overly frustrated with the lack of capitalization is because one, they had some success moving the football, right? They would get the turnover and then they would move the football and then they kind of would stall out a little bit in the red zone. And I was thinking about this, and Paul Dehner Jr. had a great tweet, and I think it really hit home. The Bengals' red zone offense is so reliant on, okay, if it's not there, Joe Burrow can get out of the pocket, extend, and they score a lot when he's outside the pocket in the red zone. And he really wasn't. There was a couple where he got outside and was trying to extend it a little bit, but you saw him, throwing into tight coverage a lot. And there were some opportunities there where, the Ravens did a good job covering, Jamar, or there was Tinsley for one there as well. So I think as Joe gets a little bit more used to playing, you'll see him extend a little bit more in the red zone, and that can help you a little bit. But yeah, I think that's really the biggest concern I have is that, if you're going to go down there like against Buffalo next week, if you're going to be kicking that many field goals in the red zone, that's an issue. But I was really pleased with how they put things together offensively in the second half with those two huge touchdowns on third down. And ultimately, that's what allowed them to create some separation between themselves and the Ravens.
Yeah, Lamar Jackson certainly was not himself tonight, missed several throws. And it was interesting to me that the Ravens didn't decide to run the ball a lot more. Derrick
Right.
Henry was successful when he was running the ball, obviously had that 28-yard touchdown early in the game, and then just felt like they kind of went away from him for a majority of this one, despite the fact that Lamar Jackson clearly wasn't playing his best game. So I don't necessarily, I talk about the Bengals not running the ball, and I think even more blasphemous was the Ravens getting away from the running game the way they did. And, once Lamar continued to show you that he wasn't himself, he did that all the way into the second half. Like, this wasn't just a couple throws early on and then he settled in. Like, he was, quite frankly, bad all game long. Even into the fourth quarter, he missed Zay Flowers on that deep
Yeah.
crossing route, even where he tried to throw it between, two levels of Bengals and just damn near threw it to the second level instead of throwing it to his receiver. So, I mean, it was not a good game from Lamar Jackson, and that's not even counting the turnovers.
Hmm.
So, you know, the good news is that the Bengals caught the Ravens on a bad week. The bad news is that I still think there's work to do, but you know what? I think if you're Joe Burrow and you're coming back from injury and missing 65 days or whatever the final count was, um, you're gonna take a 32-14 victory
Oh, no
damn near
doubt.
every time, and they certainly aren't going to be mad about that. And at the end of the day, the biggest story outside of Joe Burrow was this defense stepping up and being even better than the defense that we had hoped for coming into the year. We talked endlessly about wanting a league average defense. They looked even beyond that tonight.
Oh, no doubt, and there was several guys that, really stepped up for this team because, we talked about it, like, you're not gonna make wholesale changes at this point, it's gonna be pretty much the same guys. There is one new guy that got some time last week, of course, against the Patriots there as well, but how about Jalen Davis? He has provided, a spark for this defense at that nickel spot and, seeing Dax play a little bit more outside, which I think has led to, some of his struggles a little bit. They've asked him to do so much, right? He was at safety, he's gonna play nickel, now he's playing outside, so they've had to move him around a lot, but Jalen Davis clearly has provided a spark for them. And he's kind of been a dog for them. He's been, on the practice squad. This is a guy in recent years that has played a lot of football for them. I think Zach has a lot of confidence in him, and he made some good plays in the game. And, we always sit here and we're really hard on this team's pass rushers, but Joseph Osai, Miles Murphy, they deserve some credit for what they were able to do in this game. Yeah, I've been hard on Joseph Osai, and it's kind of hard for me to, like regardless of how this season finishes, he's on that 1-year prove it deal. I would think I'm in a spot where I want to move off him. Last year I felt that they should move off him anyway, but I mean he's playing good football right now, and sometimes doesn't always get home. But we talk about the effort being there. Well, he got home a few times tonight there as well, so he was great in the game. Miles Murphy, again, he looked like a surefire bust. I'm not ready to say he's not yet. I don't want to just get, overreact a little bit too much here. But these past 3 weeks, Miles Murphy's taken steps in the right direction. There was one where Lamar was rolling out, and it's like, uh-oh. And then Miles Murphy takes a great angle, understanding that he can't, just run perfectly sideways. He's got to veer back a little bit towards the first down marker and just cut him off at the boundary. He did a tremendous job. Had the deflection there on Demetrius Knight's interception. So bunch of guys on that defense stepped up. Obviously, it helps when you create that many turnovers. But yeah, I mean, we talk about this all the time. Bengals defense, they don't need to be a top 10 defense for this team to be really good. They just have to be somewhat average. And this defense the past 3 weeks has been more than good enough for this team to win a lot of games.
Absolutely. And there's a team that has to win 6 straight here to end it up. They're going to need this defense to step up. Initial PFF grades are out, Stone. A couple standout numbers that I want to bring up and get your initial
Yeah,
reactions to. I'm assuming you haven't seen these yet, so I'll give them
correct.
to you one at a time to get your reaction. You mentioned Dax Hill, 60
Yeah.
total snaps tonight, obviously, 40 of which in coverage. He scores a 90.8 overall score, a 91.1 in coverage.
Wow. I wouldn't have anticipated being that high. I've been a believer in Dax Hill. I thought it was a good move for them to pick up his 5th-year option. But yeah, he was sticky in coverage throughout the night. I wouldn't have anticipated being that high, but yeah, happy for Dax. He struggled a little bit certainly last week, and to see him have a good game like that speaks volumes because I think he's a guy that they're going to rely on.
Yeah, we spend a lot of time on this show, a lot talking negatively about the defense. So on a night like tonight, I want to spend the appropriate time giving them their due
Yeah.
and their praise. And so we're going to do that tonight. And I apologize if this isn't your favorite content, but this is absolutely deserved from this defense. Joseph Osai, 6 total pressures, including 3 hurries and 2 sacks, an additional hit on the quarterback, 86.9 on the defense overall score for Joseph Osai tonight.
Yeah, he was fantastic, right? I think at some point this offseason, the team's going to want to pay him, right? Because he's at that age and he's got that production to go with his name. It hasn't, contributed to a ton of winning yet for this team, but I was blown away with what Osai was able to do. And, one little side note before we continue to go through, these players on defense. How about Al Golden? He was kind of dialing it up with some of the pressure. I thought he timed it out really well. Al Golden, he hasn't used a lot of pressure because obviously, it's been well documented. Hey, we're trying to make things as simple as possible for this defense so they can play fast and free, what have you. But there was a couple times tonight, particularly on 3rd down, where Al Golden really dialed it up and they were able to get home, which obviously in the NFL, if you send pressure and you don't get home, you're in a world of trouble. But there were some spots tonight where they got home, and I was really impressed. I think clearly Al Golden's best game as the coordinator for the Bengals defense.
Absolutely. He dialed it up, and he dialed it up at key moments, like you said, got pressure on those big downs, was able to scheme open some guys to get completely free rushes at key moments as well. DJ Turner on the night only targeted 3 times, gave up 1 reception for 8 yards to Isaiah Likely. He ends up with an 82.1 in coverage, 81.0 overall.
Yeah, I mean, if he can be that guy, you have these guys in the NFL where opposing teams and offense coordinators and head coaches, when they're putting their game plans together, they say, you know what, we're not going to go after him a ton. And if DJ Turner could potentially be that guy for you, that would be awesome. I was talking about this during the shows last week. Like, I think at this point, you got to think about extending him this offseason. That could be a move that you need to make. So, yeah, it wasn't targeted a lot, but drew the offensive pass interference in the end zone. That was big, and obviously, kind of borderline garbage time there at the end. Was able to have the fumble recovery there as well. But DJ Turner's putting together a really, really good season. I think pretty obvious to all of us. He's been their best defensive player this year.
Yep, absolutely. Miles Murphy, the other young DN slash linebacker slash whatever you want to call him, 5 pressures tonight, a 75.8 overall PFF grade.
Yeah, we gotta, find out whether we talk to, Goodberry or somebody else that dives into the film, what's going on differently with him because he looks like a different player. I don't know what has changed, but he's playing a lot better in recent weeks. His angles are better. And there was one where I don't know if you remember this play where they hit Derrick Henry and it was a horrible angle by Barrett Carter, bad by Geno Stone there as well. And Derrick
Yeah.
Henry was just going down the field, and Miles
Yep.
Murphy, who's rushing the passer, chased him all the way down the field. So the effort there was tremendous for him as well. So, yeah, when you talk about the guys that we've been the hardest on over the course of this year, obviously Barrett Carter, Geno Stone are at the top, but Miles Murphy's right up there as well, and he's shut us up these past few weeks. It's been awesome to see.
Yep. Uh, Jalen Davis called up from the practice squad today, activated. He gets a 77.4 in 25 coverage snaps. So shout out to Jalen Davis, including, if I remember correctly, a forced fumble there
Yep.
of Zay Flowers.
Yep. Yeah, I think it makes sense, right? Because this guy has played quality football for you in the past. When Mike Hilton had to miss time the past couple of years, Jalen Davis often was a guy that was asked to be that starting nickel, and I thought he always performed admirably. Right? He was never like a huge weak link on their defense. He wasn't an all-world player, but he went in, he played tough, and he did his job. When you look at this Bengals defense and all the youth that they have, like it just makes sense. Like, oh, duh, like they could have used a veteran that's been around the block and has played and is just kind of a guy that's had to grind it out, right, throughout his whole career. Practice squad guy, just, you know, kind of a bottom feeder that just has to show up to work each and every day, each and every season with nothing guaranteed and have that chip on his shoulder. And that's kind of an element that they needed to their defense. So I sit there and look at it and go, golly, how did he not make the team almost? You know what I mean? But yeah, he was tremendous in the game. And the past 2 weeks, he's really provided some juice for them. And hopefully he stays in the rotation throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, last individual I want to call out real quick. You mentioned the hustle play earlier from Miles Murphy on the Derrick
Mhm.
Henry run. I don't remember if that was a run or a screen, but Derrick Henry tackle. How about Jordan Battle gets beat by Isaiah Likely deep
Yeah.
down the field, but doesn't give up on the play, hustles back, forces the fumble at the goal line. He ends up with a 72.0 overall defensive grade initially.
Got to give him credit for it. But the safety play in the game, that's probably the one part, and some bad angles per usual from the linebackers where I'm like, okay, they didn't. I don't know if they showed a ton of improvement. Again, he got beat on that play. Credit to him. He didn't quit. He kept going. He deserves credit for that. Geno Stone also had an opportunity to make a tackle on that play. He was unable to do that. So out of the whole defense, I've got some more optimism, particularly with the front, what they were able to do in the game. I don't feel great about those two safeties, but yeah, you got to give them credit there for the hustle. That number that you just threw out there, kind of better than I thought. So he deserves some credit there for that. But let's be very clear, that can't be the safety duo next year in 26.
Yeah. And as always, PFF, these initial grades will be
Yeah.
reviewed and finalized over the course of the next 24 hours. So things are certainly subject to change, but initial review is positive. I do want to bring up one more number for you, Stone.
Okay.
And this is a number that after 2 weeks ago, when the Bengals played the Steelers,
Yeah.
16 missed tackles in that game. Since then, the next 2 weeks, the Bengals defense has combined for just 12 missed tackles, 6 tonight, 6 last week. Do we think that there's been something that's changed there, or is it just Darnell Washington's a giant man and forced three of them on one play. Like, missed tackles have been an issue for this team for even going back to last year, if we're being brutally honest. So back to back games, just 6 missed tackles in each of those games. And you went up against Derrick Henry, who's notorious for making guys miss
Yeah.
tackles. So, I mean, I think defensively in general, we've kind of been talking about this, but you got to be pretty happy with the progression. You just wish it would have been happening several weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. As far as, what could have went into this improvement, I have no idea, right? Like we all know at NFL practices these days, they're not tackling, so it didn't really happen in practice. I do think Zach Taylor deserves a lot of credit, right? I mean, this team they had 3 wins, and you've seen, if you look at the NFL and you look at the bad teams in the NFL, you've seen a bunch of teams kind of quit and kind of mail it in. But I understand they have the juice of having their starting quarterback back, so that certainly helped. But just the fight and the effort and the relentlessness of the defense was really, really impressive. And to do that after, the stretch that they have had, and just kind of keep believing and keep going out there with the same guys. And, they didn't make any firings or whatever when they had an opportunity to do so. Zach said, we're going to keep rolling with Al, and, the rest of the position coaches and personnel, it's going to be basically the same there as well. And they've found ways to improve. So they deserve some credit for that. Obviously to us, it still looks like it's too little too late. They could go on a miracle run and maybe we're having a different conversation. But I think if we're being realistic, we can be all happy about what happened tonight. But, I don't think it really changes much as far as, where you're going to be at come playoff time. I think you're probably just going to end up getting a worse draft pick. But yeah, I don't know exactly what went into the improvement when it came to, tackling, but it's been awesome. Al Golden said, the game against New England was their best tackling performance of the year. Totally agree. And I think they pretty much matched that tonight against Baltimore as well.
Yeah, I was trying to find it that there was a tweet earlier today or yesterday about Al Golden specifically coaching up Geno Stone over the last couple days of practice. And I know there's been a lot of people that have been like, well, where was this the last several weeks, let alone the last couple of days? But I can't find that right now to be able to specifically mention it. But nonetheless, a significant improvement from this Bengals defense over the last couple of weeks. And certainly hope that it's not too little too late, because this Bengals team certainly has a chance still to make a run at the playoff, Stone. And we've talked about it throughout this show, but we'll give you a chance to give your opinion now. And I'm sure you'll give your opinion throughout the week upcoming on the Stone Shield
Yeah.
show, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. all week, even though Reed's out. Or are you going to go 10? Do you know?
Is Reed? Do we know what Reed's schedule is next week? Do we know off the? I
Good question.
thought
I thought
Reed
he was
was going to
still out,
be
but maybe he's
back.
back
I
next
think
week.
Reed's back next week,
Okay.
and I think the plan is 10 to noon. But regardless, we'll have one of us will be live at noon, and obviously if it's Reed, I'll be with him as well. But yeah, plenty to discuss. We'll be live tomorrow. No Reed, but we'll do the show tomorrow there as well. So looking forward to that.
Okay. Tomorrow at 10 or at 11?
10. Yep, we'll go with 10 tomorrow.
Okay. Perfect. So make sure you tune into that. But I'll get a little preview take from you, I guess, Stone. Maybe don't have to spell it out all the way,
Yeah.
knowing the fact that you've got your show to fill. But you look at the AFC North's remaining schedules in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Cincinnati, and certainly, at least to my eye, Cincinnati has the easiest path
Yep.
forward. Obviously, the next 2 weeks are not easy by any means with Buffalo and Baltimore, but you do end with Miami, Arizona, and Cleveland, compared to Baltimore, who finishes with New England, Green Bay, and Pittsburgh. Um, Baltimore, 4 division games in their final 6 weeks. Certainly going to be a tough task for them. Pittsburgh, they've got Buffalo this week, then they get Baltimore next week, and then they have Detroit and Baltimore in the final 2 of the final 3 weeks. So no easy task there either. So I ask you, is 6-0 down the stretch, which would put them at 5-1 in the division, enough to get them into the playoffs?
I think it probably is. Um, like the way I look at this is, you have one opportunity to play the must-win card, right? If you're talking about a team like if you want to call it a must-win, well, they better win, because if they lose, then you can't call another game a must-win. That means they're cooked. And I used the must-win card against the Bears, and ultimately they lost. So by that logic, that means that I think they are cooked. Now, obviously, I'm hopeful that they can go on a run. And to answer your question, I do think if they run the table, that probably will be enough, considering the state of the division right now with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Some tough tests, obviously. I think we're all going to have a very close eye on the Buffalo Pittsburgh game on Sunday. Obviously, Bengals getting ready to play the Bills next Sunday after this little mini bye that they're going to enjoy. But yeah, I'm not going to change my opinion here just off this win, even though I kind of want to and say that they're going to run the table. I'm not going to do that quite yet. But yeah, I think that would probably be enough. I know in years past, obviously 9-8 hasn't done the job, hasn't gotten you in. But when you kind of break through all the things, obviously, like it would involve beating Baltimore again, which would be, very, very significant. And then, you look at Pittsburgh and kind of where they're at, and it's like, well, I mean, this division is just so accessible, and it has been the whole year, which is what makes this so frustrating. Because if you just beat the Jets or the Bears, you're in a great spot right now. But obviously, that didn't happen. But yeah, but based on how they played tonight, they can beat anybody, I think, right? I mean, if the defense is going to play like that and you have a healthy Joe Burrow, like, I mean, you're back. But unfortunately, based on how you played to this point, you didn't leave yourself any room for error. So if you make a misstep, you throw a bad interception, you fumble late, or you don't execute on a goal to go situation, that's probably going to end things. But with Joe Burrow back, I mean, there's reason to be optimistic at this point. We shouldn't be doom and gloom about the Bengals right now. They still very much have a chance. We can be frustrated that they haven't picked up any other more wins, but I think the odds of them running the table are probably higher than many people would think. But at the end of the day, it's all about going 1-0 in each and every week. And if they can't do that, then they're not going to have a chance. And obviously, they got to play Buffalo next, and that's Josh Allen, so that's not going to be the easiest test in the world.
I'm sure Buffalo will be up to trying to knock out Joe Burrow and this Bengals
Exactly.
team from the playoffs, and certainly not going to be any easy task. Buffalo hasn't necessarily been playing great, though. We'll see how they play
Yep.
this weekend, but a tough stretch of weeks here for Buffalo as they've tried to figure out things offensively. It's been a tough go of things for them, um, but it starts then, and it starts next week. This Bengals team travels to Buffalo next weekend, Sunday, December 7th, for a 1 p.m. kickoff. Chatterbox pregame show starts at 12:30, and if in case you didn't hear this 100 times over the last 4 hours, that'll be live from Smoke Justice. Chatterbox Bengals watch party at Smoke Justice at 302 Court Street there in Covington, Kentucky. Pregame show starts at the Smoke Justice stage at 12:30 p.m. Come hang out, talk football, enjoy some smoked meats and bourbon all game day long. That's at Smoke Justice on Court Street right there in Covington. Stone, are you going to that? Are you going to be at the watch along, or are you?
TBD on that. I gotta check the schedule, but I don't think anything stands out to me right now. So I think there's a good chance. Are you? Obviously, you're not in Cincinnati. You're not making the trip, are you?
Yeah, no, I'll be
Yeah.
doing
No.
the
No.
watch
All good.
along on YouTube. So
Okay. Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
do the
Yeah.
pregame show from Smoke Justice. I'll do a watch along. We'll go back for a halftime show from Smoke Justice, then watch along, and then I assume a
Okay.
post-game show from Smoke Justice as well. So it'll be a busy day at Smoke Justice, and I'll do my best to bring the action for those people that can't be at Smoke Justice with a play-by-play here on Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. Final thoughts on this one, Stone, before we wrap up tonight?
I think just overall, I don't think you can sit here as a Bengals fan and be frustrated by anything that transpired really in this game. I get it. You didn't execute well enough in the red zone. But if we sat here, let me ask this question, Greg. If they would have scored on they get the fumble, they're on the 2 yard line, 4 plays to get 2 yards and score. Let's say they score there and everything else in the game stays the same. Like, are you really frustrated by anything in this game? I know you wanted to run the ball a little bit more, but if you score there, then you have 38, 39 points. So I don't know if you can really be frustrated about that then, but what's kind of your take on that?
I mean, here's the thing though, Stone, is like
Yeah.
this is a team that's meant to be an offensive juggernaut. We've known realistically that the offense is going to have to carry the defense. In
Yep.
most games, 6 field goals is not going to get the job done.
Fair.
And that's what's frustrating is that if I'm remembering correctly, 3 different times you got the ball deep in Baltimore territory and you came away with 6 total points on those drives. And I
Right.
don't think that's good enough. And that's the frustration. We narrowed down the 4 plays from the 3 yard line, and certainly that was overly frustrating. And I called for it on the broadcast for Katie Blackburn to just go down and just fire Zach Taylor on the spot. But like the truth of the matter is that like there, you turn the ball over 5 times on defense, you've got to be able to turn those into points. And it was one
Yeah.
thing tonight with a terrible Lamar Jackson to be able to win the game. But let's say you turn Josh Allen over 2 times next week with some picks, or you make some James Cook fumble or something like that. That's not a game that you can afford to only come away with field goals. And for me, the frustration is that it feels like Zach Taylor tries to get cute in situations rather than just play football. And that's the frustration. That's the frustration to me, is that like you shouldn't, those are the times where you should be going for knockout punches. And instead, we're settling for field goals. And that's the frustration. So would I still be frustrated if we scored in that scenario a touchdown? Yeah, I would, because it still would mean that Evan McPherson had to settle for 6 field goals in a game where you turn the ball over 5 times.
I hear you. When I'm evaluating this, though, like the Bengals came in this game as a 3-8 team. That means they're hanging out with the Cleveland Browns and the Las Vegas Raiders. Like, if you're competing for a 1 seed, right, and you're kicking field goals like
But
this,
they came in
yeah,
as
I
a
think,
3-8 team with Jake Browning and Joe Flacco as their quarterback.
yeah,
They were
yeah,
2-0
true.
with Joe
But in
Burrow.
a gosh awful defense too. But yes, yes, yeah,
100%.
yeah. So that was kind of. So I'm just kind of looking at it through the lens of a 3-8 team, where it's like, I mean, yeah, like I said, I thought it was going to come back to bite this team. I thought the Ravens were going to get it into gear a little bit more offensively in the second half, and it was going to cost them, but ultimately it didn't. And I think the most important drive, really, of this game is when Baltimore, they went 3 and out to start the third quarter. Bengals got the football, went down, scored a touchdown, and then the Ravens responded and scored a touchdown. And it was very easy for them. And I think a lot of us were like, okay, that's the Bengals defense. That's the Ravens offense we were expecting to see.
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, that's when the game was kind of hanging in the balance. And Cincinnati responded immediately by putting together a drive of their own and going down and scoring a touchdown and converting on 3rd and long there as well. So to me, that was where it was like, okay, you know what? The Cincinnati Bengals are really in business here. And last question for you,
Why
Craig.
can't we do that in quick change? Why can't we ever do that in quick change scenarios? Like
Yeah.
literally, someone would have to, someone smarter than me is going to have to figure out how to run these stats. I don't know how these media folks get all these insane stats sometimes. I'm sure they have some sort of website that us layman people don't have access to. But like, I realistically would like to know, how often is Zach Taylor in this Bengals team turning quick change scenarios into touchdowns? Because those are the moments when good teams put your foot on the neck and knock people out. And
Yeah.
instead, here we are settling for field goals. And that, like, I get it. I'm with you. The challenge that I would give back to you, Stone, and this is the entire discussion, is that you're looking at it through the lens of a 3-8 team. I'm looking at it through the lens of a team that was supposed to be competing for a Super Bowl this year. And that's the challenge, is that we came into this year saying, all right, if this Bengals defense can just be mediocre, this can be a Super Bowl contender. And I get it. Joe Burrow got hurt. We had to go through the Jake Browning era. We had Joe Flacco, who gave it his all, but really didn't look great the last 2 weeks. Joe Burrow's back. Like, that's the challenge I have, is like, I can't look at it through the lens of a 3-8 football team when the expectations were so high. And even sitting here today, knowing that we can go 5-0 over the next 5 weeks and probably get into the playoffs, still has my ignoramus brain thinking, hey, we could still be a Super Bowl team. Like, that's the idiotic part of this whole thing. And this is the like legitimately toxic relationship that we have with this team, is that for the last 6 weeks, the last 6 games, 8 games, whatever it was, I'm sitting here like, fire Zach Taylor, get rid of them all. Like, we need a completely refresh, which, to be fair, we probably still do. But like, now I'm sitting here thinking, all right, you got the win you needed. Joe Burrow didn't look great, but he'll settle back in. You can go 5-0 and you can get into the playoffs, and you will yet again be that team that nobody wants to face in the playoffs. Like, that was us last year too. Is that last year you rattle off those wins at the end of the year, and everybody's saying, oh, well, if the Bengals get in, nobody's going to want to play them. Well, they didn't get in. You're going to have the same exact thing this year. If the Bengals get in, nobody's going to want to play them again. So look at it as a 3-8 team if you want. I'm not. I'm looking at it as a team that expects to be in the Super Bowl.
That's fair, Craig, but we gotta live in reality here. At the beginning of the year, we all expected that, but we gotta call it how it is and how bad this defense has been, and the injuries they've had at the quarterback position, and all the general incompetence they've had. So that's why. But I got you.
Stone,
Like
can the
I
Bengals go
yep,
5-0 and get into the playoffs? Can the Bengals go
yeah,
5-0 and get in the playoffs?
yes,
Look at it
yes.
through that lens, Brave. Look at it
Okay,
through that lens.
all right. Hey, where you at with
Because
Zach? You still mad at Zach after this game?
yeah, get rid of him. I mean, he's going to take us to the playoffs, and I'm still going to want to get rid of him. But like,
Okay.
yeah,
Wait,
I'm still
oh,
mad at Zach.
what are you mad about with this game? Just he didn't run the ball enough for you? That's
Well, I
it, or you
just
got
think
other?
no, he converted 5 turnovers into freaking 6 points or whatever it was. Like
Yeah,
that's what's frustrating is that okay, you got that. You got the unnecessary timeouts time and time again. Every single week, it feels like we're burning timeouts in situations where you shouldn't have to be burning timeouts because he's taking too long to get play calls in. Joe's frustrated. He's probably up there trying to, be friends with Dan Pitcher and make sure that he's not angry when he calls a certain play because he wants everyone to be in the culture. But like, guess what,
yeah,
Zach? If you're gonna be the OC, just be the OC, brother. Like, don't like I know everybody hates on you for being the OC and like playing and calling the plays, but like just live with it. This whole
yeah.
like, oh, there's a lot of conversation that happens between every play, and it's a real team effort. Like, forget that. You're calling the play. Just call the plays, man. Like, use Dan in the week. Let him help design the plays. Let him help put together the game plan. But then once we get there, just go for it, man. Like, I'm tired of this whole like, oh well, we're all kumbaya and we're one big happy family calling plays together. Like, get the play call in, man. Get the play call in.
I don't think that was that big of an issue tonight. I know it has been in the past, but how about that first drive? I thought that first drive with Joe Burrow was just about perfect. All the nakeds they were running, it was like, okay, let's get him outside a little bit. Let's see how we're moving around. Easy completions, move the ball down the field. We'll throw a slant to Jamar, get him the ball. Obviously, it only resulted in 3 points. I know you're frustrated about that, but I thought the first drive from Zach was brilliant. And yeah, I don't know.
Where was it the rest of the
He's not,
game, Stone? How can we
huh?
put together these brilliant opening drives and then we
Yeah.
abandon the game plan the next drive? Where were the
I
naked
see a
boots
team.
from there on out? Where were the slants? Where were the like? Where was it?
I see a team that
The
went into
first drive
Baltimore.
never looks the same as the rest of the game. Never.
Well, that's how it is in the NFL. I mean, they got a script, and then you kind of you adapt off that when
But if the
defenses are
script
making.
works, why are we adapting away from it?
Well, according to you, it didn't
It's the
work
same
well
thing that
enough
I
because we
talked
were taking
about 3 weeks
a field
ago.
goal.
We go and we give the ball to Jamar Chase 18 times, and then like 2 weeks later, he's got one catch.
Yeah,
It just,
yeah.
I don't understand why we get away from things that work. We get away from the running game when it works. We get away from getting the ball into our playmakers' hands on easy screen plays and jet sweeps and stuff like that. And we get away from that. Like, it's just, there's zero, like, I think it's legitimate. Here's what I think it is. I think Zach Taylor has so little confidence in himself that he just tries to like get cute and he refuses to stand by the game plans that he puts in place throughout the week. He gets in, he has this script at the beginning of the game, and then next thing you know, he's off doing whatever it is that Zach Taylor does. Like I'm done with it. Like so
All right.
frustrated.
Yeah. Hey, you've been working your butt off all day. I understand. It's getting late. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning. But hey, I see a team that went into Baltimore on Thursday night against all odds and beat the crud out of the Baltimore Ravens. They beat the crud out of them. Did they capitalize enough on the turnovers? No, but they dominated that game. Scoreboard says it too.
You know what that sounds like to me, Stone?
What's up, Craig?
Team that should be competing for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, we all know that. We understand that, and that's what's frustrating. But hey, the starting quarterback was hurt for a long time, right? If Drake May was down for New England or Stafford was down for the Rams, their record wouldn't look anything close to the way it looks right now. That's just the nature of this league.
So you want Zach next year? You want Zach back next year? Is that what
You
we're
know that
saying?
you know
Is
the
that where
answer to
we're
that
at?
question, Craig. You know the answer to that question, Craig. Hey, you know what? You'll come on the show. Will either Reed or I, or you'll either come on at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock during the week, and we'll hash this whole thing out. But you know that
Just
you and
bring me
I
on
are
at
different on.
10:45 and we'll go the whole half hour. We'll just do both shows back to
Yeah.
back. We'll just knock them all out. We can just
Yeah.
all three of us can just have one big conversation about Zach Taylor and his future
Yeah.
with this football team.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to
Let's
Reed. Go ahead.
no, do it. Say it.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to go, talk to Reed there as well because he was all, "Oh, we can't oh, he might get hurt. Sit him down. Don't put him out there." So, I'm looking forward to what Reed has to say about that.
Yep, I hear you. I'm looking forward to it as well. Just to be fair, just to be
Yeah.
fair, I'm the guy that said that he should have been back last week against the New England Patriots. So uh, I don't know. And
Yeah.
then in his press conference, which we haven't talked about, I did a whole reaction show to it.
Mhm.
Basically said Zach Taylor made the decision that he didn't play last week, even though Joe Burrow felt like he could play. So
Yeah.
I don't know. This Joe Burrow last week against the New England Patriots would have been nice though, wouldn't it, Stone?
It would've. Yes, it would've. And, Jamar Chase would have been nice too in that game as well.
It really would have. It really would
Yeah.
have. Although we probably wouldn't have. We probably would have been cute and tried to, not let
Oh
him get
god.
the ball 15 times. So.
Yeah.
All right, Buffalo next week. Stone, what's your keys to that matchup? Obviously, Buffalo yet to play this weekend, but any thoughts as we look ahead to Buffalo next weekend?
Yeah, I play like that, but execute a little bit better in the red zone. If the defense plays like that, that is good enough to beat anybody. If Joe Burrow plays like that, that's not good enough to win a Super Bowl. It's good enough to beat a lot of teams. Like how when we look at Joe Burrow's performance here, I think that's about as good as we could have hoped coming off the injury. But we know when Joe Burrow's in his groove, it looks even or a lot better than that. And to me, that was pretty good, right? What he was able to put out there tonight. So obviously that's obvious defensive improvement or keep the defense going what they've done the past few weeks. Joe Burrow take another step in the right direction. And I think if you can put a similar performance out there to what you did here on Thanksgiving next week at Buffalo, like you're going to find yourself with another win.
Yeah, well, that would be great, and I think the Bengals did a good job keeping Lamar Jackson, contained for the most part. He got away a couple times, but I think did a good job in pursuit, and hopefully they'll be able to do the same thing with Josh Allen because we know that he loves to run as well. The Stone Shield Show will be live tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on Chatterbox Sports YouTube, and then obviously all next week off the bench at 10 a.m. and then the Stone Shield Show at 11 a.m. and we'll recap this entire game even more and look ahead to the Buffalo game along with all of the NFL weekend and where the Bengals stand after this win. Again, Bengals win 32-14 over the Baltimore Ravens. They improved to 4-8 on the year and stay in contention for a playoff spot. For Stone Shields, I'm Craig Sandlin. This has been Chatterbox Bengals. We will see you next time. Until then, hoo day, baby.